Hi, this is John Toffelmeyer, and this is my analysis of the U.S. presidential election for October the 22nd, 2024. And I'll begin by letting you know how the methodology that I did to put this analysis together. And first, I used the national polls that were listed on the Real Clear Politics website to create two election outcome scenarios, one favorable to Kamala Harris and the other one favorable to Donald Trump. I used the state polls as they were listed on the Real Clear Politics website where available. Uh, and I also used those available state polls to estimate the national popular vote percentage from the state polls so that I could connect the state polls with the national polls and to use the national polls to connect with the state polls. So in other words, to integrate them uh, from from below to above and above to below. And for a lot of states, though, there's no polling available, and so where it's not, I use data from 2016 and 2020, along with the national polling data, to estimate the state of the race in those states. And many states are either have very little polling or a complete lack of polling. And finally, and this is an important point, I assume that with one exception, and that's the poll that was used to create the scenario favorable to Kamala Harris, that there's little or no underestimation of Trump's support in the polls in 2024. I think the polls are a lot better than they were 4 years ago. And so basically, I'm assuming that they're unbiased. They might be biased. They might be underrepresenting Trump's support. But at this stage, I'm going to assume that there is no underestimation of Trump's support. Fairly conservative uh, assumption, but I think a good one to make for this analysis. At first, I'm going to start with the scenario favorable to Kamala Harris, and this is a scenario that uses the data from a poll conducted by an organization called Morning Consult. And Morning Consult also does polling for Bloomberg. You may see some Bloomberg polls. Those are done by Morning Consult. And also Morning Consult does their own polling. This poll is a very large poll. It uses between 8 and 12,000 people, so it's a big sample. It's a very big sample, and it uses what's called a panel approach, where they take the same people or groups of people that they go back over and over again. So let's take a look and see what this poll is saying. And at the top, what this poll assumes is that Harris is leading by about 4.2 percentage points at the national level. And let's look at the implication of that also based on the state level polling, connecting that with this poll. And the first thing is, let's look at those states that are very likely in the bank, according to this scenario, that are likely solidly for the Democrats in this election. And we start with the West Coast states of California, Oregon, and Washington, and then continuing in the West, Colorado, New Mexico, and then the upper Midwest, Minnesota and Illinois, and then on the East Coast, Virginia, and then in the Northeast and the Eastern Seaboard states, Maryland, the District of Columbia, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire. All of those, and I'm saying that if I think that Harris, using this poll, is ahead by 8 points or more, I'm calling that as solid for Harris. So you can see that's where she's very. There's probably no question that, according to this poll, that she's going to win the race. Then let's look at those states where between 4 and 8 percentage points, according to this scenario, and they are Wisconsin at 4%, Nevada for 4.1, and Maine for the two electoral votes the statewide electoral votes in Maine of 7.1 percentage point lead. And then finally, this poll is assuming this poll is very favorable towards Harris in that the swing states, the ones that are the closest in the lightest blue, and these are the rest of the swing states, Wisconsin and Nevada are considered to be swing states, and here there's a solid lead for Harris in these states. And then in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, she has between a 1.9 and 3.2 percentage point lead. And all of that, and also in the 2nd District of Nebraska, according to this scenario, she has about a 2.9 percentage point lead. Now let's look at the states that are favorable to Trump under this scenario. We have this contiguous area from Idaho through the upper West, the agricultural states in the Midwest, down into the deep South, and up to Ohio, West Virginia, and Indiana. Those are all contiguous. They're connected. South Carolina is also, I think, that Trump, under this scenario, is going to win by at least 8 points, if not more. And then there's one state that is between 4 and 8 points. Only one. And one of the things here is that you can see these states are it's quite extreme. Most of the states in this scenario, it's kind of it's 8 points or more, a fairly decisive margin. You're not going to expect any surprises in those states on election night. Florida at 4.7% percentage point lead for Trump, and then Texas, according to this, only a 2-point lead. So what this is saying, that if you believe that Harris is up by 4.2 percentage points, Texas is kind of in play. Which kind of makes me suspicious of this poll. But at any rate, this is a view. They put out a lot of polls. It's big sample. So if you believe this, if this is reality, Harris should win by 319 to 219 electoral college votes under this scenario. Then we turn to the rest of the polls and mashing them together and getting an average and assuming no bias other than just taking those polls, connecting them with the state polls so that we get at the state level numbers. It's a different picture, very, very different picture. And the first is that my estimation of excluding that morning consult is the race is about even. It's about 50-50. And again, we'll start with the heavily Democratic states, 8 points or more, the 3 West Coast states, Hawaii, I forgot to mention that the first time around, New Mexico, Illinois, and then Vermont, New York, and these Eastern Seaboard states that are listed, right, all of them, all of those are expected, even if the race is virtually tied at the national level, that all of those states will be carried by Kamala Harris by 8 points or more. Then between 4 and 8 points, we have New Hampshire, Virginia, and Colorado. New Hampshire about 4.3, Virginia 5.8, Colorado 6.2, and then states that are leaning to Harris under this scenario: Minnesota 3.8 percentage points, Maine 2.9 percentage points. So in my expectation, because and I think this is probably a reality, my expectation is this is what the state of the world. But granted, could be she could be leading, she could be winning. But this is what I think is the state of the world. Minnesota and Maine could be in play should Trump's lead increase. On the other hand, and now let's go over the Trump states, Again, that huge swath of states from the interior west all the way, and including Florida in this case, and Alaska, and basically the same states with the exception of Florida. Then Texas at 6.1% is the between 4 and 8 percentage points. And then here are the critical 7 swing states. And according to this scenario, I have right now, as of this date, I have Trump ahead in all of these 7 states, but 2 of them really, really tight. Nevada and Wisconsin, 0.1, 0.2 percentage points. Pennsylvania up by 1 point. Now, what's interesting here, even if he doesn't carry those 3 states, under the scenario he wins, I believe it's 277 electoral college votes. So he has a little bit of leeway here, and also Nebraska, 2nd district, this would swing to Trump under this scenario. So I think that he's probably ahead in the 2nd district of Nebraska under this scenario. But what this tells me is that there's a little bit of leeway. If Harris goes up by 2 points at 51-49, she might be taking Nevada, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And then the question is, these Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia, along with Arizona, would be in play then. My estimation is that what these numbers suggest to me is that if it's about a 51-49, a 3 percentage, 51.5, 48.5, 2 to 3 points, that's about the real toss-up. The election's a real toss-up there. But if Trump is tied or close to being tied or ahead in the popular vote, then he's ahead. I have him ahead in all of the swing states under this scenario. And under this scenario, I think he would win a 313 to 225 electoral college vote victory. I just finally wanted to I made these maps on Real Clear Politics, thanks to Real Clear for all the data and for this map. So I'll close with that, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.